From the heartland of America, focused on God, family, and country, the mouthpiece of the Midwest. This is Dale Carter's America.
From our palatial podcast studio in Raytown, Missouri. Hi, Dale Carter, along with Kurt Wheeler, and we have some special guests with us, too.
Yeah.
You got the littles over there.
Yeah, we're on daddy duty today, so.
All right. Well, those littles will be driving before you know it, which is why somebody like Bob Watson needs to be on speed dial for you. He is my Blue Springs State Farm agent. We've been together for 31 years, through kids, growing up, and then driving and all that, and now I got a stepkid who's driving. He also insures my house. Auto, home, life, he'll take care of you. Bob Watson, State Farm Insurance, 7th and Main in Blue Springs. You can reach him at 816-229-7878. Licensed in both Missouri and Kansas. Like a good neighbor, State Farm, and Bob Watson is there. He's been there for over 50 years. Taking care of folks. He's the gold standard for State Farm agents here in the middle of the country, which is where we bring you the podcast from.
Tremendous people.
Crazy world we're living in. Absolutely crazy. News cycle is spinning fast. Remember that we are your safe space for rooting for this country. We did it for 4 years under Joe Biden. Did we disagree with him on policy? You bet we did. But at the end of the day, we were rooting for this country to do well, and that has not changed. We want the country to do well. I'm continuing my run for Jackson County's 5th Legislative District, a major oopsie in the campaign. I was going to talk about on this episode how I was looking forward to being at the Republican Club in Jackson County, out in Lee's Summit, at the country club there in Lakewood. And it's one of the most terrifying things because on my calendar, and I have two calendars, I have my personal calendar and I have the campaign calendar. They both said the same thing, that this event was happening on Thursday, January 22nd. Mm-hmm. So you know me, I do the morning show at KFKF. I respect my body and my age to the point where I need to get 8 hours sleep. So I'm in bed at 6 o'clock. I get up at 1:45, go into the bathroom, look at my phone, and the first text I get is, "Where are you?" The second text is, "Hello, where are you?" And I'm like, oh my God, this is not, and
that's not a good sign.
It's a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
And Dakota Worrell from my team was at the event. I just thought it was going to be next Thursday. I'd invited people. I invited John Patterson to come. He said he was going to come. I invited friends and family to be there for this big speech I was going to give in Lee's Summit, and turns out it was last night. And Dakota basically covered for me, and he said I had a family emergency and could not make it. And while I appreciate that, this is a character moment. And when you screw up, as I did, apparently, you need to own that. And I own it. My screw up. I'll make it right with those people. I will be there. I've been there before. I'll be there again. And I feel horrible about it. I've felt horrible about it all morning. And it's just a reminder to me that in this fast-paced world that we're living in, just take a second and double-check things, right? Double-check your calendar. Maybe ask some folks. Maybe get the flyer for the event that I'm going to be speaking at.
And be honest, too. I mean, people mess up, It's
yeah, they do.
Yeah, I'm not making excuses for you. I'm just saying that, like, your honesty about the situation is in itself, I think, admirable.
It would be easy to lie about.
Yeah.
It would have been easy to say, let Dakota cover for me and just take that. But man, once you start lying about stuff, where does it end? Yeah. Then you become a regular politician. Right. And we built this podcast on telling the truth. Yes, we have a lot of opinions that you can disagree with, but the things that are definable as truths, we tell the truth on this podcast. So I'm going to tell the truth, and that is the truth on that. Sugar Creek Republican Mike Steinmeyer has been working on getting Eastern Jack away from Kansas City. He is going to be a guest on this episode. Later in the episode, we'll find out where all that stands. I am running in the 5th District, which is Eastern Jackson County, to be on the county legislature. Wherever Eastern Jackson County ends up, if somehow we pull it out and we extricate ourselves from Kansas City, which I think ultimately is the right thing to do, I'm going to go with those folks. I'm representing my friends and neighbors. It's why I'm not running at large, because if I were running at large, I would be saying to you, we want the entire package. We want all, because at large folks run throughout the county, even if they represent different at-large districts. There's 3 at-large districts. I'm not doing that. I'm running to represent Eastern Jackson County, and I will represent you no matter where we go. If we form another government, if we become this Truman County, wearing my Truman County shirt today, wherever you end up, I want to be with you to represent you, my friends and neighbors. And I've laid out everything that I believe on my website. It is dalecarter.us. If you want to help with this campaign, whether it's driving me around to do door-to-door knocking, if you want to give some money, that would be awesome, because we're going to have expenses like signs and advertising and lots of other things that happen in a campaign. I could use you there. So it's dalecarter.us. That's the pitch, at least, for the campaign right now. And again, apologies to the Jackson County Republican Club, the last people on this planet that I won't mad at me here at this point. So we're going to rebuild that bridge before you know it. Christian Brothers Automotive with us on the podcast, and that is a great place to take your automobile. I'm telling you, we had some really warm weather, and it made me wonder whether winter was going to show up at all in Kansas City. It's going to be really cold this weekend, so it was late arriving. It's going to be here, and your car deserves some TLC, especially the older it gets. We're keeping our cars a lot longer. You got to keep them maintained, and Tim Porter and his fantastic staff at Christian Brothers Automotive in Independence, they take care of my cars. He's ready to take care of yours. I've pointed out many times I'm not a car guy, don't know much about them. Mine is black, and I know where the gas goes. People like me who are novices, all the way to you people who can break them down and rebuild them, they can speak your language. And anything you do at Christian Brothers comes with a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty, whichever benefits you the most. They work on everything that's got 4 wheels, and some of them, I think, have 3 wheels. I'm not sure. But get an appointment. Get your oil changed. Do the maintenance on your car to get you through the winter. If you take care of your car, it's going to take care of you. Christian Brothers, set up an appointment today at 816-675-4587. They are right on 40 Highway, just east of 291/470, whatever you call it there in Independence, right in the middle of the island between the eastbound and the westbound lanes of 40 Highway. And tell them, of course, that you heard about them here on Dale Carter's America. Biggest investment that you probably have is your home, right? And as we go into winter, boy, the worst thing in the world to have happen is to need a new roof. Get somebody on that roof to inspect it, to find out what's going on there. You got to know the health of your roof. If you don't know what it looks like before a storm, how in the world can you prove to an insurance company that the damage is from any recent storm? Insurance companies have tightened the guidelines on what they agree to, so it's very important to have evidence of the roof before the storm hits. So get Royal Roofing and Solar on your roof to do an assessment. They've worked on my roof. In fact, we did our roof in 2 stages. They'll take care of you any way you need to be taken care of, and know that they stand behind their work. They're not fly-by-night, and they work with insurance companies. It's not some scam of, hey, we'll get you a free roof. Work with somebody who works with the insurance companies. 816-540-7057. Austin Watterson and his team at roofedbyroyal.com. So let's start in Minneapolis. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Yeah. So we're still talking about Ashley Good. We hit on this briefly because it had just happened as we recorded the podcast last time. She was the protester who blocked the street so that ICE couldn't proceed with its mission. Right? We've seen all kinds of video images of this. I've got a couple of takes from 2 law enforcement officers who get it. First is Sheriff Grady Judd. He is from Polk County, Florida. We use him a lot on the morning show at KFKF because he's got really funny takes about stupid criminals and what they do and how they get in jail. This is not funny at all. This is Grady Judd talking about ICE, and what they are, who they are, and how you should interact with them so that you don't end up like Ashley Good did.
Hello everyone, Sheriff Grady Judd here. I've been asked by media outlets and several people to comment on the event that occurred in Minneapolis yesterday. Let me make one thing abundantly clear. You have to be accountable for your conduct. And that starts with the mayor. Did you hear his filthy talk? Did you hear his filthy, uninformed talk yesterday to the people not only of the city and the state, but across the nation? Shame on you. That's lack of professionalism. Now let's look at the event. The investigation's not complete. I am giving you context on the video clip that I saw. Law enforcement officers, federal law enforcement officers, ICE agents, were trying to take the occupant of the car out of the vehicle. During this encounter, the vehicle backed up and then drove directly at the ICE agent. That is a deadly weapon, a 2-ton deadly weapon. So what did the occupant expect? They should have expected to be shot when you commit a deadly assault on a law enforcement officer. So let's do this. Let's send out the message loud and clear. And it should start with the mayor, the police chief, the local sheriff, and the governor of Minnesota. Cooperate with law enforcement officers. Don't resist them. Don't violently resist them. If you do violently resist them, if you do felonious assaults with 2-ton weapons, expect to be shot.
Yeah. There you go. That's Grady Judd breaking it down. But he's a hayseed hick. He's from Central Florida, right? And Florida is not really representative of America. That's what the left would say. What would you say if you got a similar take from the PD superintendent in the city of Chicago, Larry Snelling?
Federal agents, ICE, HSI, are officers. They are agents of law enforcement. If you box them in with vehicles, it is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed and that this could end in a deadly situation. And it's reasonable for them to use force based on those conditions. Do not box in any law enforcement officer. You are breaking the law when you do that. And you are putting yourself in danger. Following law enforcement agents around. The question is why? What do you plan on doing? It's also reasonable for them to believe that you're eventually going to do harm to them. If you ram any vehicle, especially that one that contains law enforcement agents, and that's any law enforcement, local, state, federal, county, and you do this intentionally, this is considered deadly force. Deadly force is anything that can cause great bodily harm or death. When you plow into a vehicle that contains law enforcement agents, you're using deadly force.
Yeah. I mean, he's all over this. And, you know, it should be pretty clear to anybody that getting between federal agents and their active enforcement operations is a bad idea. Don't do it. I mean, and again, what I said this on the air on KFKF. I believe this to my core. Protesting is part of the American system, right? We've been protesting since the country was formed. It's where you do it. It's how you do it, right? These guys are enforcing federal law. They were sent there by the President of the United States. Putting yourself between them and the active enforcement operation is a recipe to die.
It's a recipe for disaster, regardless. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That guy looks like and talks like Denzel Washington, like to a T, by the way.
Denzel could play him in the movie.
That's what I was just thinking. There'll be a movie about him someday.
So Philip Parrish is a Republican running for governor of Minnesota, and I posted this whole thing, and I'm not going to read this whole thing. It's on the podcast Facebook page. He wants to play a game of mirror, mirror on the wall for Walz and Mayor Fry. Now, and you know how they handled it in the moments after this thing. You remember Fry said, "ICE, get the F out of Minneapolis." Remember that? Did we play that clip last week? I don't
think we did.
Okay, but you've seen it everywhere. It's everywhere right now. And Walz, the latest is, we should turn down the heat. We've got to turn down the heat. And he put out a video in Minnesota, and his version of turn down the heat, Kurt, is he wants people to run around with their cell phones recording ICE agents and what they're doing so that we can have an epic viewing of all of the misdeeds that they're doing, all the laws that they're breaking.
Yeah.
How's that turned down?
Should we do the same for him? By the way,
no kidding. Well, that's where Philip Parrish comes in with his mirror, mirror on the wall. He makes some points in here. He's like, what if we, Governor Walz, started tailing your motorcade every morning, filming your kids' school drop-offs, your coffee runs, your late-night nonprofit schmoozing sessions, live streaming it all with captions like, just holding our leaders accountable. It's exactly what you just said, right? He's like, what if we do this? What if we have flash mobs outside the governor's mansion and City Hall? Hundreds of people blocking the doors, screaming in your faces, banging on windows while you're just trying to do your job, you know? Well, what if we did all that? Cherry on top of all of this is the local police decide, nah, we're not going to cooperate with your state troopers anymore. We're just going to sit back and watch it all happen, which is exactly what local police are doing in Minneapolis.
Yeah, and there's legitimate illegal activity and corruption taking place in Minnesota with all this Somali stuff and the daycares and everything else. So it would be the equivalent of people, you know, going up to the governor's house, the governor's mansion out front and, you know, recording or protesting or whatever, and then telling the local police to back down and not, you know, show force or arrest anybody. It's exactly the same thing.
Well, we'll see what happens with that, but that's a really good piece. And again, it's available on the podcast page. You can check that out. I kind of wanted to go back just in a brief overview of how we got where we are, because there's this narrative out there that Donald Trump doesn't like the blue cities, right? Because he didn't win the blue cities. So he's trying to screw up the blue cities. He's trying to go in there and just create havoc any way that he can. And I guess you could believe that if you want. But if we go back to the beginning of how we got here, again, we go back to Joe Biden, because Democrats before Joe Biden, including Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, took the border seriously. So if we go back to the beginning of the Biden campaign, when he was on that debate stage and he opened the border, he said, I want everybody to come in. You remember that? That's exactly what happened. And then you've got sanctuary cities, right? These are cities who say, we don't care what the federal law is. The federal law may say, you know, if you come into the country illegally, we can export you. So these sanctuary cities set themselves up and they said, we want you to come. We don't care. So this is almost like gun control legislation. Can you imagine if you're an illegal in this country and you have committed crimes like murder, rape, mayhem, whatever you have done, okay, and you've got a city like Minneapolis or New York, you know, that says, and Chicago, come on, we want you. We're a sanctuary city. They're going to eat that up like lunch. Man, that is wolves to the sheep right there. And that's exactly what they did. And then Biden, you know, flew illegals to the center of the country in the dark of night. Trump winning and closing the border and ordering ICE to rid the country of illegals is absolutely proper for executing federal law. And blue cities are resisting, and they offer up pawns like Ashley Good. It's like, you know, what you should really do is get right in the middle of all this and disrupt it. They are pawns. They are collateral damage. You people on the left who are putting yourself in this position, Democrats are sitting back in their back rooms and they're laughing their asses off about this.
Yeah.
Because they're creating the chaos that they want to sow.
Well, I think more than pawns. I mean, they're genuine victims in a real sense. People like Ashley, I think, are genuine victims, and they're not victims of ICE. They're victims of propaganda. They're victims of people who have gotten them riled up, and especially women. You know, like you have these women that are like in the front lines in these riots. I've said this before on the podcast, and I'll say it again. I mean, I have my daughter sitting right here, like. I can't imagine that for her. You know what I mean? You have these women. I mean, where are their parents? You know what I mean? Like, where's the semblance of like.
Well, you know, in Ashley Good's case, and I don't know if we got into this too deep last time because it had just happened, but what we know about her is the father of her children is dead, right? I
thought she was a lesbian.
Afterwards.
Oh,
I guess
okay.
she tried that side. Now she's going to try this side or whatever.
Gotcha.
So she's in a lesbian relationship. She drops her kids off at daycare, right? And then she does what she does. She rammed this officer who was injured, seriously injured in that wreck. I know they want to try and say, well, you know, it's amazing to me how many experts we get on law enforcement on Facebook after something like this.
Yeah.
They know everything and they don't know anything.
He has like internal bleeding or something like that.
Yeah.
There was, do you know who the Krasensteins are?
No.
They're big liberals on Twitter. I'm not going to pull it up, but it would take too long to find. But one of them, there was a post about internal bleeding and the officer, and he posted a reply on X, and he said, well, you know, that could be a cause of internal bleeding could be caused by shooting with one hand. Because he shot with one hand, so the recoil from shooting with one hand causes internal bleeding, I guess.
Well, the serious thing here is, though, she drops her kid off at daycare, then she gets killed by doing something really stupid. I mean, regardless of what you think about policy here, this is a stupid move to put yourself in between law enforcement officers of any stripe, including ICE officers. I mean, it's got enforcement in the name, right?
I mean, let's just pause on that for a second, because that's just so crazy to me. It's like you're a mom, and you drop your kid off. You're like, okay, little Timmy, have a good day in third grade. Mommy's off to the ice riot. Yeah. Mommy's gonna go obstruct a federal investigation now. Have a nice day, Timmy. You know, and like, yeah, she's accountable for that, and it's regardless of.
Well, who's going to raise her kids? That's my question.
I'm still not entirely sure, you know, if she was intentionally trying to hit him or whatever. I mean, she did hit him, so there's that. But even aside from all that, yes, she is responsible for being there. She shouldn't have been there, all that stuff. But I'm trying to make the broader, like, meta point of, like, how are all... It's a statement of our society that all these women are, like, on the front lines of, like, violent situations now.
And they're pawns for the Democrats.
Yeah.
They are the pawns. They are the ones that are being sacrificed in this game of chess that Democrats are playing. And
men shouldn't be there either, by the way. I'm not saying that, like, yeah, send all the men to the ICE riot instead of the women, but, like, not the women. At the very least, can we protect our women, please?
And if you're a single mom, I think you have a higher responsibility than being in the middle of something silly like this. Yeah. So now we come back to Jackson County. Manny Abarca, who has been a guest on this podcast, he is now the chairman of the legislature now. How about that? And Sean Smith, who's been a guest here, is the vice chair. So you got a Republican and Democrat who are going to have to work together. But Manny likes to throw these bombs out there of like he was the one behind 18 to 20-year-olds can't have firearms,
right?
Which is unconstitutional. And now he wants to pass. It's not going to pass. Maybe it will pass. Who knows? A meaningless ordinance that would require law enforcement here not to mask, that's happening a lot. Sheriff Darrell Forte came out and said, this is classic government overreach. What are you even doing here? How are you even going to enforce it? He doesn't care. He's just throwing it out there to get people talking about it. I asked, will you agree in a side measure to go together with this to make doxing a felony with real jail time?
Yeah,
because that's what led to all of this. You know, the guy running for governor in Minnesota alluded to this as well. These folks who are out there enforcing federal law were sent there legally by the President of the United States. They are getting in, they're finding out where their kids go to school. They're finding out what their addresses are. In some of these cases, because you're dealing with drug entities from overseas, you're dealing with people who will come to this country and kill their family. So why don't we make doxing a felony with real jail time? That might be go along with that. I mean, this isn't going to go anywhere, but the reason that they are doing it is because of doxing, and he doesn't want to talk about that.
Totally. No, I think that's actually a great point, Dale, and I think that would be a fair trade. Is if we're gonna, because I get this is not why they're making the argument, but I get the argument, that you want transparency in law enforcement, and like for cops. You should be able to walk up to a cop and say, "What's your badge number?"
Yeah.
And you have a right to do that as an American citizen. So
you do.
I understand that, but these people are under attack, and they're going to get doxxed, and their families are going to be threatened, and all these things. So there's a level of pragmatism that has to go into that. So I think that's a good compromise if we can make doxing highly punishable, which it should be already.
It should be.
Yeah.
It absolutely should be. Walz has other problems back up in Minnesota. He's got that massive fraud deal that's been uncovered. Republicans in that state, they're not a majority, but they are drafting impeachment articles. And just in case any Democrats are listening, this is why you impeach an executive. Right? You don't impeach him over a phone call that you disagreed with. You don't impeach him on the way out for something that his supporters did. This is why you impeach. This is malfeasance in office. And Tim Walz is one of two things. He's either stupid or complicit. I would lean towards stupid. I mean, I've heard him speak enough to lean towards stupid. And the only person that really Kamala Harris could find who is stupider than she is, right? Yeah. So the fraud is real, and this kid, Nick Shirley, is exposing the fraud. We had a video last time of Nick Shirley. It was actually a report that CBS did following Nick Shirley around. But this is an interesting report because he's going daycare to daycare, and he's going in and he's saying, "Hey, I've got my kid over here, and I want to put him in this daycare." And he's running into various people. And this video, he runs into some Somalis. And, it's clearly not right. It's clearly not on the up and up. Yet they are taking federal tax dollars, your tax dollars, my tax dollars, right? And it's added up to billions of dollars in fraud. And, Tim Walz is the governor of Minnesota. He's supposed to be overseeing all this stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's a problem. Don't you think that's a problem?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's roll the video.
I'm asking No. You don't ask me nothing. $2.25 million. Get out.
Are we the only community that does fraud?
How come they said this building was closed? Do you guys know where Advanced Mobility is? Advanced Mobility? Yeah, we're looking for it. Never heard of it?
They know we're shining the light on the fraud, and they have no defense.
Nick Shirley, the independent journalist who says he's exposed $110 million in alleged Minnesota fraud, has just dropped another bombshell video claiming he's finding another $16 million in the state's welfare programs. This time, the alleged fraud uncovered is hundreds of fictitious transportation companies. With that, Sandy Rios is joining us, the host of the Sandy Rios 24/7, and Bill Caruso, Democrat strategist. Thank you both for being on. This is serious stuff, and I know it kind of gets a chuckle a little bit because you have a 23-year-old YouTuber, independent journalist, but he has really helped the state, the federal government uncover a massive amount of alleged fraud that is now being investigated. Talk to us about this latest video, Sandy. You saw some of the clip where he's walking through the halls and he asked about this transportation company, and a guy walks by and he says, "Never heard of it," and allegedly it's been there for more than a decade.
Well, Sean, honestly, I don't see anything funny with it. I'm sorry, my sense of humor is dead on this. Nick Sorter has so much courage. It's amazing. And he has uncovered now, I think they have 90 companies in Minnesota that are fake transportation companies that are supposed to be taking these children to these fake daycares. And some of the cars are just sitting out on the lot. There's no tire tracks because they never leave. And they've checked out dozens of the locations, the addresses. And like the daycare centers, no one's there. They're not there. They are stealing, and most of this is Somali owned, almost all of it. So then we have the threats to Nick Sorter and to his partner Bill. I think Bill has uncovered all of this stuff. He's been researching this for 10 years, he said. So now Nick and his partner Bill have been threatened by the Somalis, physically threatened, and they are stealing millions and millions and millions of dollars from our treasury.
Are you asking? Let me just be real clear for the viewer, because it's Nick Shirley and Dave.
Yeah. So, I mean, you get an idea of what's going on there. And one of the videos I saw online, it had snowed because it's Minneapolis and it snows there quite a bit. And it was outside a daycare, and it was like the middle of the day. You would think there would be like little footprints in the snow leading to the daycare because the little kiddos who got dropped off.
Yeah. Or like children.
No footprints.
Visible.
No footprints. So there you go. It's volatile there. And the latest being a Venezuelan illegal shot by ICE in Minneapolis after he attacked an agent. They aren't playing anymore, right? And then you get the hand-wringing over, show us your papers. I saw that from a bunch of liberal folks. That's the new talking point. Show us your papers. What is this, Nazi Germany and all that? Have you ever been in a situation where you've had to show your papers?
Yeah, every time I get pulled over, every time I go
Does that happen a lot?
It's happened
every time I get pulled over. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, what's the alternative, right? They go into these situations where they know, because they're sanctuary cities and they've got all these illegals running around in there. I mean, what's the alternative? You ask politely, are you an illegal? No.
Well, the alternative is you don't show any papers and you just get to be here legally for as long as you want and do whatever you want. That's the alternative that they want.
So try this. The next time you get pulled over, which, I mean, from the sound of it, might be, later today, right? Try, when they ask for your license and registration, say, no, I'm not giving you my papers. This isn't Nazi Germany. What do you think might happen to you?
That's like that like sovereign citizen BS. You ever see those guys?
Yeah.
The guys who are, they like supposedly know the law and they like hold up the piece of paper on their window. Yeah. I do not consent to unlawful.
I do not consent to paying my federal taxes, right? Some of those people do that too. Yeah. How will that work out for you with the IRS? Try it when you get on a flight, because they're going to ask you for your ID. I'm not giving you my ID. This isn't Nazi Germany. I don't have to show you my papers. It's just crazy. We show documentation at a lot of different times. In fact, there's a federal law that's running through Capitol Hill that may one day become the law of the land that would say that you have to show your ID before you do something like, I don't know, vote.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Nazi Germany.
Nazi Germany. If you are here legally, you have nothing to fear from ICE. If you are here illegally, and then they'll say, well, you said you were going to take the worst first. Well, the bottom line is, if you're here illegally, you can be exported out of the country.
Right.
And should be.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's like with the cops. Like, if you get pulled over and you didn't do anything wrong, then what are you afraid of? Show, your car's legal, you have your driver's license, you didn't do anything wrong. What's the problem?
Yeah.
There must be a misunderstanding, right? Okay, if there's a misunderstanding, then show your driver's license and your registration and say, what's the problem? Oh, there's a misunderstanding. Okay, go on your way. You're fine.
Well, that's just white privilege speaking right there, Kurt. You have white privilege going on.
Yeah,
and
probably.
I've been a white guy most of my life. I think all of my life, as a matter of fact. Yet I am the guy who, when I get pulled over occasionally, it happens maybe once every decade or so, right? I put my hands at 10 and 2. Yes, sir. No, sir. I know you've got a job to do, and I want to make sure both of us leave this encounter alive. So, I'm not, because look at the people that they have to pull over. Look at the officers we've had in the Kansas City area alone who have died from pulling somebody over because they pull over a really bad guy and bang, 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 that officer's dead.
Yeah.
That has happened in Kansas City very recently.
And even not only just that, but just like people that you wouldn't want to deal with. You know what I mean? It's not even necessarily a danger thing, although it could escalate to that. But you see some of these people driving around with no license plate.
Yeah.
Half their windshields caved in. They have trash hanging out of the window. Like, what kind of interaction do you think that's going to be? You pull that person over. You think they're going to
Probably
be
not
like
gonna be
normal or nice or kind?
Well, what I've always told my kids, like what I just said there, hands 10 and 2, yes sir, no sir. I'm going to slowly reach into my glove compartment and you just all the things you have to do. And because of what's happened lately and what's happened in Minneapolis, I had that conversation with little Lord Fauntleroy, the step kid that lives on my second floor. We had that conversation just to make sure, because he's just now driving. I'm like, you understand this, right? If you do something and you get pulled over, this is how you should proceed. I'll never forget Joe Biden once in one of his interviews, he said that only black parents have that conversation with their kids. Well, maybe Joe needed to have that conversation with Hunter at some point. It might have helped out. Okay, so you blue cities out there, you're just pathetic. Did you see what happened in Portland after ICE had to shoot a suspected illegal gang member from Venezuela who tried to run the ICE agent over with his car? Portland's police chief had a news conference and, cue the tears.
It saddens me that we even have to qualify these remarks, because I understand, or at least have attempted to understand through your voices, your concern, your fear, your anger.
Reach for the hanky there.
In no way is meant to disparage or to condone or support or agree with any of the actions that occurred yesterday. But it is important that we stay committed to the rule of law, that we stay
Instead of reaching for his taser, he's reaching for his handkerchief.
A trustworthy and legitimate police department for all of Portlanders.
Oh, boy. I mean, that's how they view the world. They view the world as, we've got these cities and they're run by Democrats and you all are welcome. We've got, ordinances that our city councils have passed that make us sanctuary cities, which means we don't have to abide by federal law. That's a crock.
Yeah.
That is an absolute crock. And I really hope at some point the Supreme Court steps in once and for all. They're going to need a case that's got to wind its way toward SCOTUS there. But these sanctuary cities are unconstitutional. How are they not? Right? You have federal law that says if you're in the country illegally, you're an illegal alien. I know they want to change the language and make it nicer and all that, but the federal law that has not changed says that if you are an illegal alien, you can be tossed out of the country. Now, my friends on the left will say, well, it's not criminal, it's civil. We're not throwing them in jail. We're sending them back where they came from.
Is it not criminal?
It's not. It's civil. But the law says that if you're here illegally, you can be sent back to the country that you came from. Mm-hmm. We're not sending them to a gulag. We're sending them back where they belong, to their home country.
Even if we could do that, we wouldn't want that. I mean, that would just further depress our resources. We don't want to imprison them here. That's like what I don't understand is it's like, well, we're putting them in jail. It's like, okay, great. Now they're still here.
Yeah, and we're feeding them our tax dollars. Yeah. And a lot of these are violent criminals who are in these sanctuary cities. Minnesota's got a bunch of them in prison. Donald Trump says, I want to take them off your hands and send them back where they belong. What's wrong with that? A lot of folks are thinking that Trump's going to raise the stakes and invoke the insurrection clause. That is one of the oldest laws that we have on the books. That goes back to 1807. Right? And it's been used a lot by a lot of presidents. The last use of the Insurrection Act was 1992 at the Rodney King riots out in Los Angeles. There are some who are advising Trump to just chill here and let this thing simmer down, that cooler heads are ultimately going to prevail. But when I see Tim Walz say things like, we want you to follow around the ICE agents with your phone and, document all this stuff. The stuff that's a problem are these pawns that we identified earlier who are putting themselves in the middle of all this. That's crazy. Don't do that.
Well, it's kind of, I probably mentioned this a few weeks ago, but it can become a dangerous situation because it's, I think, like the half measures that are going to cause more problems. It's like sending in ICE, but they're not protected. They're not protected by the police. They're not protected by local law enforcement. Right. It's just going to escalate. You're going to get protests. You're going to get riots. And then you're going to have a response to that. And then you're going to have a response to that. So it's like, and I just see it getting worse. So I'm not saying I want this, but just practically speaking, it's like anything short of just like a full on like crackdown with the National Guard and just throwing people in jail and like getting the job done.
Where's Richard Daley when you need him?
Is not going to get it done. I mean, it's just gonna keep being this tit for tat escalation, you know. So it's sad, but that's just the way it is.
Well, the good news is, as cold as it's going to be in Kansas City this weekend, it's going to be a lot colder in Minneapolis.
Yeah,
and rioters typically like to be in the summertime conditions.
Yeah,
you know, when they're burning down cities, they like to do that during the summer.
Correct.
Not during the winter. So Clay Como Shooters is there to help you because you never know when this is going to come to your house. I know from personal experience. You think you live in a safe neighborhood and all of a sudden you do not. And Clay Como Shooters is there to help you protect yourself. It hasn't come in yet. My wife specially ordered a shotgun that she wanted, with a flashlight on it and everything. I mean, you know, so she's going to be good to go on that. And when she gets the gun, we bought it at Clay Como Shooters. They're going to train her on it because they train law enforcement, experienced trainers with law enforcement background. They've got an indoor shooting range. I'm scared to see what she can do with a shotgun. Do they fire the shotgun at the indoor range?
It depends on the range. Some ranges allow it, some don't. But they're going to put up like the life-size Dale Carter cardboard cutout,
please,
up on the end of the range.
Yeah,
she's going to be like, "Stop leaving your dirty dishes in the sink!" Kaboo! Kaboo! Kaboo!
Well, she does watch all those shows, right? Like Buried in the Backyard, How I Got Away with It. I mean, our DVR's like 98% full, and it's all her crap. So maybe this was not a great idea, but it's a good idea for you. Protect yourself, because when you call 911, there is a delay, and if there's a bad guy in your house, you need to know how to deal with it. 816-452-4867. Affordable pricing. They're not a big box store. They're a neighborhood business looking out for the community. Protect yourself and your family. Find that right firearm and get trained on it with our friends at Clay Como Shooters. 816-452-4867. It is definitely worth the drive. And we thank them for being on the podcast. As we thank Kirk Doris. Kirk Doris has a different service. All of our advertisers really provide services more than products to help you with things that you need. And Kirk Doris is Medicare Simplified KC. And that's for people who are 65 or older or approaching 65, because the next benchmark you're going to hit there is Medicare. And Medicare is one of those big government leviathans that is very complicated. Kirk makes it simple, thus the name, Medicare Simplified KC. Which plan do you need for your particular circumstances? Which plan, which part, which supplement? Because most of them are going to require some sort of supplement. Kirk's you're not going to pay him a dime. He's going to navigate the waters for you, find you exactly what you need. And those insurance companies, they end up paying him. That's how that all works out. Nobody works for free. 816-701-6661. They're at 3600 South Nolan Road in Independence. Either you go to them or they'll come to you. Work it out. Here's his number, 816-701-6661. On the web at MedicareSimplifiedKC.com. If it's not you, maybe it's one of your parents, maybe both your parents who are approaching 65, and you want to get in front of this and help them. He's going to be able to help you get that done. Kirk Doris, good friend of the program here at Dale Carter's America. All right, it almost seems like it wouldn't be a podcast if we didn't poke some fun at California. Reparations are back. Have you seen this?
No.
San Francisco has actually passed a reparations plan. They propose to give one-time $5 million payments to eligible people.
Wow.
$5 million. Now, they've got no plan for this, or they've got a plan, but they don't have any money for it. But they got the plan. Richie Greenberg, who is a conservative commentator, we got a couple of photos from him. Let's put up the first one so that you can see the criteria, so you know if you are eligible for the one-time $5 million payment.
San Francisco reparations plan. Who's eligible to apply? Required. Must be 18 years of age or older. You must identify as Black African American on public documents for at least 10 years. Let's go. Okay. Oh, now 10 years though. That's the tough part. You have to be keeping up the ruse for a while.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then 2 criteria of any of these. Oh. Sorry. I have a baby pulling at the audio equipment under the desk. Then 2 criteria. Born in San Francisco between 1940 and 1996 with 13 years residency. Moved to San Francisco between 1940 and 1996 with 13 years residency. Descendant of someone enslaved before 1865. Personally or descendant of someone incarcerated by the, quote, failed war on drugs. Displaced or descendant of someone displaced from San Francisco by urban renewal 1954 to 1973. Person who experienced lending discrimination in San Francisco between 1937 and 1968, or in San Francisco redlined areas between 1968 and 2008. Attended San Francisco public schools during consent decree desegregation 1983 through 1993. I don't know what that is.
Only one of those deals with what this was supposed to solve, which was descendants of someone enslaved before 1865. They've thrown the kitchen sink at this thing. All right.
Yeah.
Personally, or
housing discrimination.
Yeah, well, incarcerated by the failed war on drugs.
Yeah.
That's just incredible. But there's more. Okay. Now that this is lined out, there are more demands. Are you shocked by this? Because I've said this before. It will never be enough. And you're not gonna read all of these, but pull it up, and you can see what the additional demands are.
You talking about this?
Yeah. These are new demands after the plan was laid out. I mean, pick a few of those.
New demands by the San Francisco African American Reparations Committee. Beyond cash payouts, the Reparations Committee also created a 100-plus point plan, which includes: committee seeks to create Black banks. Committee seeks Black credit card loan debts forgiven. Committee seeks Black business tax and payroll tax exemptions. Skipping down. Committee proposes home vacancies of 3+ months given priority to Black residents. Drop it on the ground. Drop it. Drop it. Drop it on the ground. Just put it on the ground. Committee prioritizes Black employment training certification contracts. Committee seeks Black tax relief and exemption from payroll tax. Committee to create Black campuses, Black business hubs, manufacturing, cannabis, media, AI, biotech. And the last one, committee seeks funding Black schools, Black churches.
Yeah. So again, my prediction comes true. Reparations, who's going to pay it? Who's it going to go to? I mean, that's crazy. And then it's never going to be enough.
So that's on top of the $5 million per person is funding all those things.
And they got no money for it. But I'm sure, and California's got bigger problems too, because now they're going to put on the ballot this year the one-time wealth tax to tax the rich who are trying to leave California. Right?
So get them on the way out.
Yeah, voters are going to decide this November, tax the rich. Now, we have commentator Avery Day standing by with some of the details on this.
Financial literacy is chasing Gavin Newsom and the Democratic politicians in California, and they are running faster. They are running so much faster. They are chasing the billionaires and multimillionaires out of the state as they are proposing a one-time 5% billionaires tax. I put one time and billionaires in quotes because it's not just going to be one time and it's not just going to be for the billionaires, and it's an asset tax. So it's not a capital gains tax, it's not an income tax, it's on your personal property, which means the government gets to come in and put a value, whatever value they see fit, on your personal property, on things that you've already paid taxes on to acquire. And then you have to come up with the cash to pay that 5% tax. And if it's not liquid, that means that you're going to have to borrow against your assets or sell, which is a way for the government to basically normalize seizing your personal property. And not only does this infringe on our constitutional rights, it's also retarded, because what's going to happen is the 200 billionaires are going to leave, or 80 or 90% of them are going to leave. And the whole goal of this was to raise $100 billion for the California government to spend more, because the government manages money so well. Just kidding. They don't have a money problem. They have a mismanagement problem. They have a spending problem. Because the real money is not even with the billionaires. The 200 billionaires in California have about $2 trillion worth of assets. The real money is with the working class, who has about $30 trillion of assets in California. So if you think the California government is going to raise $100 billion to increase their spending, and then when all the billionaires leave, they're going to go, oh, we better cut back spending, you actually have a room temp IQ. No, they're not going to cut back spending. They never cut back spending. They're already operating at a multi-billion-dollar deficit. They're already spending way more than they bring in. So what are they going to do? They're going to go to the next class. They're going to go to the multimillionaires. And then when the multimillionaires leave, they're going to go to the millionaires. And then the millionaires leave. And then everyone's equally miserable. Because what California is also doing is they are importing a bunch of people with no assets who are a detriment to the system, and they are running away the people with assets who are an increment to the system. So their revenue base shrinks drastically. They don't have the revenue to keep up with their spending, and they're already operating a multi-billion-dollar deficit. The government never manages money well. Giving them more money means they're going to mismanage more of it.
Yeah. She nails that exactly right. And we call that the downward spiral. And that's where they're headed, into a downward spiral. If you could get out of California and you had the assets and there are other places to go, why wouldn't you? And it's why Missouri, why John Patterson and Governor Kehoe are trying to make Missouri more competitive by winding down the income tax, by getting rid of the personal property tax and funding it in other ways. Because we live right next door to one of those blue states. We live next door to Illinois. And we'd love to get some of their businesses to come in here. We would love to steal from Kansas, because they just...
I was going to say Kansas to a certain extent.
Well, they just stole the Chiefs.
Becoming a blue state, if not already.
So, Missouri borders 8 different states, including Tennessee, which is one of the better ones, by the way. So what's happened so far? If you could leave California and escape, you would. Larry Page, Google's co-founder, moved his base of operations to Miami. Larry Ellison, the Oracle founder, he's out. Elon Musk, Tesla and SpaceX both moved to Texas. David Sachs, billionaire venture capitalist, moved his entire operation to Austin, Texas. Now, how do we know that Gavin Newsom is running for president? I mean, he's the guy that you've identified as he will probably be the nominee in 2028.
He's the front runner, yeah.
He has come out strongly against this tax. That's what he's going to run on. Not what he's actually done as governor that was so screwed up they actually tried to recall him. He'll be the one to stop an insane policy that will literally kill the state of California, and that is going to be the headline, and I'm starting to believe you that he is going to be the Democrat nominee. So we'll see how it all shakes out. It's going to be in the hands of the voters, and the people who are pushing this are going to say, tax the rich, it won't affect you at all. It's just going to affect the rich. How often have people bought into that nonsense? I'm trying to clean up my language because we have kids in the podcast studio today, but let's just call it what it is. It's absolute nonsense. In Kansas City, what is going to be on the ballot this year, I think in April in the municipal elections, is once again that earnings tax. Why wouldn't the residents of Kansas City, Missouri, who are the only ones who can vote on it, why wouldn't they vote yes? Because the wealth is outside the city right now. And for those of us who come into the city to work, why not?
Free money.
It's free money. So I suspect this one-time wealth tax is going to pass, because it's tax the rich. It has nothing to do with me. You take away the rich people, then guess what? You're the rich people.
I'm not rich, but when I self-identify as black and take that $5 million, I may be.
Then I become rich. Oh, it's a crazy world that we live in. And when you got a crazy world, you got to feed yourself, right? And that means a stop at Fun House Pizza. Jim Dingman runs Fun House Pizza. It's funny because this morning on KFKF, I had a little bit about how there's an internet thing going around that says how your 2026 will end up depends on the title, the title of the top selling movie, the number one at the box office, the year that you were 10 years old. So I looked mine up. So mine would be 1973 was when I turned 10. The number one movie at the box office that year was The Exorcist.
Oh, great.
So now I'm a little worried. So Dingman lets me know that the number one movie at the box office the year he was 10 was Grease. And I said, there's a pizza joke in here somewhere. Yeah. There's got to be. But not a Funhouse pizza. That's a great pizza with the toppings piled incredibly high and a fun atmosphere with video games and pinball machines and rides. You can take the kids there for a birthday party. They always have a lot of fun at Funhouse Pizza on the web at funhousepizza.com. The locations that Jim owns are on 50 Highway in Lee Summit, 7 Highway in Blue Springs. An incredible supporter of this podcast, and we appreciate him. So go grab some pizza this weekend and take it home with you or eat it there, whatever you want to do. Fun House Pizza is incredible pizza.
Mine is Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire.
What do you think that says?
That by the end of the year, I'm going to be swinging from rooftops with a spandex suit on.
Well, with these kids, you got to. I mean, you better be flexible because you got to be here and you got to be there. By the way, my wife's, when she turned 10, the number one movie at the box office was Kramer versus Kramer.
I haven't seen that.
That's a divorce movie.
Oh.
I don't want to go there.
Great.
And
so you have The Exorcist and a divorce movie.
Exactly. So we're going to overcome those movies from when we were both 10 years old. Michael Schroer, he just came back from the islands. I talked to him yesterday, and I said, dress warm when you come back because you're coming back to 7 degrees on Saturday night. Michael's out there selling houses, and what a great time to sell houses. Did you see that interest rates came down to where they were 3 years ago? And a lot of pent-up demand, people buying houses and doing refis. I'm telling you, if you are in the market, you need Michael Schroer on speed dial. He's at Remax Elite in Lee's Summit. He is an incredible real estate guy. We've documented all the awards that he won in 2025 for sales and volume and all that. He's ready to take care of you, whether it's a starter house, a bigger house, a smaller house because you're downsizing, or a piece of property you want to build on. Give him a call and get that process started. If you want to sell your house, he'll help you sell yours and buy the next one. Moving from an apartment to that first house, that's even easier. 816-783-5800. And then, the new office number is 816-373-8400. So that's Remax Elite in Lee Summit. Call him on his cell, 816-520-9342. His email address is michaelschroer56@gmail.com. That's Michael, and then Schroer, all one word, SCHROER, the numbers 5 and 6, @gmail.com.
He has a statement on the Chiefs. I'm going to read it.
What's he saying?
Here's my take on the Chiefs moving from Missouri to Kansas. If you live in Missouri and want to move to Kansas to be closer to the new stadium, I can assist you. If you live in Kansas and don't care to contribute to the funding of the new stadium, I can assist you with the move also. My point is, I'm licensed in both Missouri and Kansas, so wherever you desire to live in Kansas or Missouri, I'd be happy to assist you.
He's always working it. And again,
wheeling and dealing.
Those interest rates are at 3-year lows. Things are getting better. Gas prices are going down. Inflation is under control. Things are going well, and we root for the country to do well, no matter who's in the White House. And guess what? It happens to be Donald Trump. And you may hate Donald Trump, but things are going better now. So we appreciate all of that. And we bring in our next special guest on the podcast. He is a Republican representative from Sugar Creek, Missouri, and my personal friend, Mike Steinmeyer, is with us this morning. Republican Mike Steinmeyer from Sugar Creek, a friend of this podcast, a friend of mine, a supporter, and I support him as well. He is joining us. Are you back in the district, or are you in Jeff City?
No, I'm back in the district. Happy to be back the first week. I'm just trying to get my sea legs. I'm tired. We've had a lot of meetings. So
I understand that. So obviously we have you on to talk about the bill that you pre-filed that would separate Eastern Jackson County. In fact, we named it first on this podcast. We named it Truman County. And just for today, I'm wearing my Harry Truman. I don't know if my fat rolls are in the way, but you can see Harry.
He looks a little bit like me, I guess, with these glasses. So.
try and smooth him out here a little bit. So, so the bill that you have pre-filed would do what you and I have talked about, which is something a lot of people in Eastern Jackson County have talked about for a long time, and that is extricating us from the city of Kansas City. So where does that stand right now?
Well, the bill really just restores power to the people, and in terms of because I mean, government's supposed to be instituted to serve us, right? And so the discussion's been lively, and it's been interesting to watch, and I'm sure you've watched some of it too, and we've had conversations on this as well. Everything is really being placed at the feet of the voters. In fact, I had lobbyists for Kansas City, you'll like this, that came to me and said, well, who's behind this bill? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, who put you up to doing this? Who's behind this? And I said, the voters. The voters are behind it. They're the ones that are upset. Are you guys just so tone deaf in Kansas City that you don't understand?
They don't.
How broken the system of government that we live under is?
You know, I saw some social media stuff, and you and I were talking off air about this. Tony's Kansas City is all over this, calling us rubes who don't understand how things work. I would turn it completely around, and I would ask, as a resident of Blue Springs, which I am, and the folks that I am running to represent in Grain Valley and Oak Grove, Buckner, little slice of Independence, what we ask is what benefit it is to us to have Kansas City in our county. What's the benefit?
Outside of an entertainment district, I don't know.
Well, we could still go to the entertainment district. We just don't have to be coupled with them
and pay for a lot of it.
Right.
And that's what us rubes out here. We're all a bunch of dumb country bumpkins out here in Eastern Jackson County that are paying the majority of the bills for the county and the urban area. And now it's not just Jackson County that's telling me that it's so disproportionate in terms of the collected revenues and what's paid back to Kansas City. You got Platte, Clay, and Cass saying the same thing. They're going, hey, don't forget about us out here. We have Kansas City zip codes too, that we pay them a lot more than we benefit from.
So you're having discussions with those other entities. How are those going?
Well, I have had I've asked the question to state representatives that are in those counties. And they have gone to their county commissioners and they're all hearing the same thing. That, man, if we could somehow do this, that would be a great thing. But they want to be included in the conversation, which we can. We can include those counties as well. All we have to do is amend it to include Platte and Clay and Cass.
Yeah. We had Speaker of the House John Patterson on last time on the podcast, and I kind of talked to him about it, and he kind of, he didn't give me a really in-depth answer on this. So I'm going to ask you. You've been asking for a hearing in Jeff City. How's that working out?
Well, John, I've been in meetings, the pachyderms that meet. He committed to having a committee meeting on this. And so I've had discussions with him on it. I think it's a timing component. We've got so many bills that he's referring out early, and I think that's a good thing. So as we get into the zone, if you will, for legislation that's been turned in, I think Speaker Patterson will choose a time where it'll get people involved, engaged, and give the time to get as much input to it. He wants to allow people to have a voice. That's the big thing. So when it goes to committee, I know someone like yourself may drive down to Jeff City and want to come in and say, I am supportive.
Pick me.
Yeah. And that's my hope, is that we just pack that conference room and with supporters of the bill that just go, we don't think it can be fixed at this point. It is so broken, so dysfunctional that we really need a voice on how to fix this.
You know, there are folks who look at it from the outside and say, yeah, it could never happen, will never happen.
I know.
They probably said the same thing about the county executive being recalled. Just a bunch of rubes out in eastern Jackson County trying to stir the pot. Well, all those rubes, if the math is right on this, in Eastern Jack, it was 90% of the vote against Frank. The total county, it was 85%. And then, of course, the same, you can't do that, probably said, well, you'll never get an elected assessor for Jackson County, just will never happen. And the math worked kind of the same way. So why couldn't the math work this way?
It can, and that's, I think that's what, why what you do with your podcast is important, is to correct some of the confusion or this hysteria and even the emotions that, I think Mayor Q has been really responsible for bringing a lot of angst to folks in Kansas City. First of all, if we're a bunch of hayseed hicks out in the eastern Kansas, why would you want to connect yourselves to us?
Exactly.
Right? Do your thing. So I always think, well, if that's your opinion of us, then you want to probably let us do our own thing. And if you think we'll be destructive and come back to you, okay, test us in that. But we're reminded. The Declaration of Independence, it says that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of its ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government. That question of the assessor was a charter change in the county. 90% approval to change the form of governance that we live under. Now, that doesn't guarantee it's going to be a great thing. We could elect an assessor who's a nightmare.
Right.
But at least we have a way to have voice to that. And then if they do a poor job, we have a way to get rid of them.
True. I think we got a lot of smart people out in eastern Jackson County and could govern ourselves. And as far as Mayor Q goes, I get why he's terrified, because again, on the ballot is the earnings tax. And at some point, some people are going to look at that and say, we don't like taxes, so we're going to vote that down. And he's going to lose all that revenue. He's $100 million in the hole. And now he's got folks in eastern Jackson County saying, we're kind of sick of sending you money into a black hole.
Yeah, and what do we get for it? I mean, when you look at how the money is even dispersed, revenues from county collection, how it's dispersed throughout the county, eastern Jackson County has been very patient on a lot of projects that are sitting there waiting for funding. And Mayor Q says, let's work together in this process. He threw out his cell phone number that the city pays for. I'm like, I'm not calling you, Mayor. You can call me. I would love to sit down and talk with you, but I don't think he wants to really have that conversation. He's really about creating rhetoric, and you're right. I think he's very nervous at allowing people to have a voice of how they want to be governed. I mean, I think that he's been quite clear, and it's been a one-party rule for how many decades, Dale?
A lot. Well, I've lived here for 31 years. I think it's been Democrat since I've lived here.
Yeah.
Right.
And so maybe they don't want to know how folks really feel.
Well, and you talk about funding. We just went through the dispersion of finally the COVID emergency funds, which is a joke to begin with. That was all that funny money that Joe Biden put into the system. Well, the county has been sitting on it forever. And if you look at the distribution, all you have to do is go to line number one, $1.3 million to the Kansas City Urban League.
There you go.
And then you look at the distribution beyond that, there might be one or two eastern Jackson County agencies that got a little bit of that money, but it's clustered in the urban core, the city core.
Very, very, very good point. And that is what people should be paying attention to. So if you're going, well, why do we need to do this? Well, let's just go look at how that money's being distributed and how disproportionate it is. We have needs in eastern Jackson County just like they have needs in the urban area. But
we certainly do. Now, Preston Smith is a friend of mine. Is he a friend of yours?
Yes,
Okay.
I like Preston very
Preston
much.
has put out a lot of information on all this, and the demographic information. It's very interesting that now Eastern Jackson County has a population advantage over the city. So there's also the argument to be made that if we actually ran people, in the at-large seats and brought this anger to the polls that we really want to voice in here, that we could flip that courthouse.
Absolutely. And listen, I don't always agree with how voters vote, but in this particular instance, I think voters deserve the right to have the voice restored to them and a type of governance that they want to live under. And if they decide that it's time to let Kansas City just be its own entity, then we'll figure out our side. It will do nothing in terms of disruption of contracts and vending and public safety. It'll do nothing in terms of keeping the services and the people safe. It just shifts power in terms of the governance, and I think that's what people need to understand. Nothing in there would create chaos in this bill.
Truman County. I got the
shirt.
You like
Truman County?
I love it. I mean, we talked about that early on when we were talking about making this move. It's like, well, you know what? Let's name it after Harry because, the county seat of this county would be Independence. It's already set up to do that. Already got the courthouse, already got everything in place for that. And the former president is buried right there. So I say call it Truman County and let's get her done.
When I was on city council with Mike Huff and Bryce Stewart, we actually floated that idea that Independence, because there is a statute that allows I don't know when the last time it's been used, but an attorney said, no, you can do this. You could actually secede from the county as a city if the voters it felt like that was necessary on 100 signatures, 100 petition signatures, which we could get probably in a weekend, and then be able to remove ourselves from the county. We floated that. Boy, did we get a lot of backlash on that. So,
well, again, the question that I would ask anybody who opposes this is, what is the benefit to Eastern Jackson County for being in the same county with Kansas City, Missouri? And if you can come up with one, somebody give me one, you might get me to reconsider. Give me 3 or 4. I just don't know that they're there.
Right. Well, and I'll tell you, my next charge is, and I talked with Sean Smith last night, is that I want to see a forensic audit of the county.
Oh, no doubt.
I want to see I want to see where they take our precious tax dollars and what they do with it. And I have even approached the state auditor about it as well. So.
Well, I'm running, and if I win and I'm there with Sean, that's going to be 2 voices down there to get that external audit done, not an internal audit, an external audit.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think that's not just it. I know it sounds vindictive when we say that. It's not. It's a high level of accountability that we're asking for, but also, who in their right mind would want to be county executive next for the next election if we don't know that the balances are clear, right? That the budget's been looked at, the accounts have been looked at, and whatever wrong that has been committed. And let's face it, we don't know how badly broken this county is. We have ideas and we suspect it's pretty bad. But who in their right mind would want to come in, do this job, and possibly get in trouble legally for things that Frank White did,
right?
And the legislators haven't been able to find, source, or correct. Somebody's going to be accountable for that, and I wouldn't want to do it.
Phil Lavoda, I think, is doing an incredible job in an interim role, and a lot of us, he made a pledge not to run. A lot of us behind the scenes are twisting his arm, saying, "Hey, you're the best executive this county has ever had," and I can only imagine what might come after him.
Yeah, and I like Phil. He's an Independence guy, so he lives in Kansas City now, but he's been around Independence, so we've always had a good relationship with Phil. I would, and I don't understand why Phil isn't calling for it. And maybe they are going to do it. I think Sean's going to bring something forward with the forensic audit. But I think Phil would be a hero in the county if he says, let's just put everything on the table and let's look at everything, all the revenues coming in, all the money going out. I don't care what division, office it is in the county. We're going to look at everything and do it. If, for someone in the interim position, it's the right thing to do, but also for whoever takes that seat, whether it's him or somebody else, I would want to know. And I think Phil is smart enough to come to that conclusion too. At least I hope he does. So.
Totally agree. So as you move this thing forward, if it gets to the hearing phase in Jeff City, keep my number on speed dial and I'll be there to support you.
Well, I know Preston plans to come. I'm sure there'll be others who've been watching the debacle of Jackson County and we'll need that support. And these, with the property tax committee that went around the state, it's comforting to know that we're not the only counties that have struggled with this, but I think we're the leaders of this type of concern, and these legislators now have an ear to listen to now your side.
Not something that we want to. Not something we want to be a leader in. Is bad assessments.
Exactly. But if that's what it takes, right, for people to have their greatest assets protected, I say let's go. And not apologize for it. We need to do things. There's a mechanism in place in our Constitution to serve the folks that are being governed, and that pressure is supposed to be from the people to the institution of government, and somehow it got flipped and all that pressure comes down onto the taxpayers, and enough's enough. I mean, that's what I hear all the time. So,
well, from one rube to another, keep up the fight.
Maybe we get a shirt that says I'm an Eastern Jack hayseed, right? I'm proud of it.
Mike Steinmeyer from Sugar Creek, thank you so much for everything that you're doing, and we'll continue to cover the story as it unfolds.
Dale, you're the best. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Always glad to have Mike Steinmeyer on the podcast, and we're going to continue ruffling feathers, the rubes that we are in Eastern Jackson County. One of those rubes is my pal Bob Watson. He has been repping State Farm in Eastern Jackson County for over 5 decades.
I'd say congratulations.
7th and Main in Blue Springs, 816-229-7878. Bundle that home and car insurance, and you'll save even more. Starts with a phone call. Get a rate quote, 816-229-7878. Auto, Home, Life. My personal State Farm insurance agent for nearly 31 years. And I'll share him with you. Won't be long. It'll be warm enough to get those pontoon boats out. He insures those as well. And like Michael Schroer, he's also licensed in Missouri and Kansas, ready to help you with all of your insurance needs. So do you remember when SCOTUS nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson couldn't tell us what a woman is?
Yes.
We got that clip.
I do. And here it is.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
I'm not a biologist. I can't tell you what a woman is. Well, I'm not a biologist, and I think I got a pretty good idea what a woman is. Well, now Ketanji Brown Jackson is on the high court. She's hearing arguments where you really need to know the difference, and she still struggles.
You have the overarching classification,
I'm just going to read the little lower third here. West Virginia ban on trans women in female sports. Transgender girl BPJ, initials, claims West Virginia's law violates Title IX and the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause.
everybody has to be play on the team that is the same as their sex at birth. But then you have a gender identity definition that is operating within that, meaning a distinction, meaning that for cisgender girls, they can play consistent with their gender identity. For transgender girls, they can't.
So I think that,
So as to the part about your ability to pass over from boy to girl,
Yes.
you can go from one way but not the other. I want to be clear that BPJ is not challenging that specific classification. I think that's important to start with. But I think, if anything, that's useful evidence as to the lack of a transgender-based discrimination, because if the legislature were just sort of unsettled by the notion of transgender athletes, I think the answer would have been to then bar them from passing over in any way consistent with their gender.
I appreciate that. I guess I was getting at the what I understood the Chief Justice to be trying to discuss, which was this notion that this is really just about the definition of we accept that you can separate boys and girls, and we are now looking at the definition of a girl, and we're saying only people who were girl assigned at birth qualify.
They're just twisting this stuff into pretzels when it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Boys play on the boys' team, girls play on the girls' team. End of discussion. Justice Alito, he had the ACLU attorney tied up in her own little pretzel.
Girls.
Yes, Your Honor.
If it does that, then is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause, an understanding of what it means to be a boy or a girl, or a man or a woman?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that definition? For equal protection purposes, what does it mean to be a boy or a girl, or a man or a woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was just understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court, and we don't take issue with we're not disputing the definition here. What we're saying is that the way it applies in practice is to exclude birth sex males categorically from women's teams, and that there's a subset of those birth sex males where it doesn't make sense to do so according to the state's own interest.
Well, how can a court determine whether there's discrimination on the basis of sex without knowing what sex means for equal protection purposes?
I think here we just know that we basically know that that they've identified pursuant to their own statute that Lindsay qualifies as a birth sex male, and she's being excluded categorically from the women's teams as the statute. So we're taking the statute's definitions as we find them, and we don't dispute them. We're just
I mean, this is just, it's not a serious country. I'm sorry. We don't live in a serious country. If we're arguing what a woman is in the Supreme Court, and then we also have women like throwing Molotov cocktails at ICE officers, it's not a serious country. Well, not to mention abortion and everything else.
Justice Potter Stewart in 1964, this is a famous Supreme Court quote, was asked about hardcore pornography. And he said, "I know it when I see it." Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, so I think we know what a woman or a girl is, and efforts to let boys who say they are girls play on the girls' team. It's unfair, it's dangerous, and it's downright misogynistic. You know, a lot of people throw that word around about us and conservatives in general, that we're misogynistic. I mean, how can you say that when we're out there protecting girls and women in sports, and we're defending the purpose of Title IX? Title IX wasn't to take someone who says, "Hey, you know, I think I'm a girl, so I'm going to go play on the girls' team." Well, guess what? I play a lot better. I've got a better bone structure, better muscular structure, and all that. I mean, that goes back to science. It's like, believe the science. Well, we don't want to believe the science because the politics says if somebody says they're a girl, they're a girl.
Yep.
That's crazy. And if it stands, it won't stop at that. I mean, what's to stop struggling male athletes who say they are transitioning and force their way onto the girls' team?
What's to stop me from identifying as black so I can get $5 million from the state of California?
Done. But you need to do it for a while. What was it, 10 years?
10 years, yeah.
Yeah. So start now.
I'm going to lobby to get that changed. It's okay.
Get it, yeah. Get that cut. I mean, that seems wrong.
Yeah.
That it has to be 10 years.
I know. Yeah, it's
seems
discriminatory.
Like it ought to be instantaneous, right? Yeah. Okay. It's bad practice. It's a ridiculous use of the Supreme Court. I think you agree on that. We need them for actual constitutional issues. But we do have one more. I'm going to leave you with this one. Senator Josh Hawley trying to get an answer to a seemingly easy question.
Said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
Just like the beginning of, he even has that smirk on his face where he's like, okay, this is going to be rich. Watch.
That's that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities.
So you see, it all started back in, it's like,
But
can men get pregnant?
There are many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women. That
Can men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying.
Let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. So can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool.
No, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding. This is about science and evidence, and I'm asking you. You know, the United States Supreme Court just heard arguments yesterday at great length on this question. This is not a hypothetical question. This is not theoretical. It affects real people in their real lives. And you're here as an expert, called by the other side as an expert, and you've been telling us that you follow, right, you're a doctor, and you follow the science and the evidence. So I just want to know, based on the science, can men get pregnant? That's a yes or no question. It really is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of a lot.
I'm not. I'm trying to get, it's not complex. I'm trying to get to an answer, and I'm trying to test, frankly, your veracity as a medical professional and as a scientist. Can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflating
This is
male
extraordinary.
female with.
No, I'm not conflating male and female. They're two different things. There's biological men and there's biological women. And I want to know, can men get pregnant?
What you were talking about is biological.
You're not going to answer my question, it sounds like.
Biological males.
This isn't hard, doctor. Can men get pregnant? Yes or no?
Again, I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you that is not coming from a place of trying to be polarized and push.
I'm not trying to be polarizing. I'm trying to ask. I think it is extraordinary that we are here in a hearing about science and about women. And for the record, it's women who get pregnant, not men.
Wow. It took a senator with a law degree to make that determination.
I mean, you know how stupid I think most of these hearings are because they accomplish nothing. It's all for show. But that said, I've also said that Hawley is one of the best at it. Him and Kennedy, I think, are the two best in the Senate of pushing these people. But like in that clip, I would have liked to have seen him just let it breathe a little bit more. You know what I mean? He does the, can men get pregnant? Can men get pregnant? Can men get pregnant? And she's like fumbling, you know, she's totally like deer in the headlights. Just let it sit. Give it like 10 more seconds and just let her like, and just let it go and then ask it again instead, you know, cause he's kind of giving her a rope by, you know, continuing to ask the question over and over. By the way,
I have my physical coming up with Dr. Sutton. Do you think I should take my phone and film him and ask him, can men get pregnant?
I think you should, and if he can't answer that, you should find a new doctor.
I think he'll give me the answer that we all agree is the truth, and that is what we seek here. And we'll do it again next week. This is Dale Carter's America.
The views expressed on Dale Carter's America are Dale's and Kurt Wheeler's. They do not necessarily reflect the views of KFKF or Steel City Media. Comments can be sent to DaleCartersAmerica@gmail.com. Check back for weekly episodes. Subscribe, spread the word, and give us a 5-star review. Thanks for being a part of Dale Carter's America.